Coming up on today's Browns Report, we're going to talk about trading for this guy, potentially, the unicorn, Cordarrelle Patterson. So the reason why we're discussing this on today's show, and we're also going to talk about a schedule rumor at the end. I should have said that earlier. But the reason why we're talking about CP84 is Bleacher Report put out this article that I came across where they suggested the Browns trade for Cordarrelle Patterson. So let's discuss the idea of Cleveland pursuing the do-it-all flex of the century on fantasy football guy, Cordarrelle Patterson. The Falcons drafted a running back at pick number 8, DeSean Watson, as we know, which has put some doubt in Cordarrelle Patterson's future with the Falcons. Now, he just turned 32 years old back in March, so he is up in the age column, and he could have some good years left. Maybe not years. He could have a good year left in him. And do they want to have that good year be in Atlanta or maybe somewhere else? Because the Falcons did draft DeSean Watson after all. So this is what Alex K. from Bleacher Report said. Enter the Cleveland Browns, a team that declined to retain Kareem Hunt, its primary pass catcher, out of the backfield following the expiration of his contract. The Browns have a clear need for a versatile threat like Patterson to round out their offense after losing a player who contributed 2,847 yards from scrimmage and 23 touchdowns over the last 4 years. Now, Patterson over the last 2 seasons in Atlanta, here are his stats. 1,300 yards on the ground. I mean, that's not going to turn a lot of heads, 29 games played, but 670 receiving yards, pretty good. 19 total touchdowns. That is the eye-popping number. 19 total touchdowns in 29 games for a guy who was a gadget special teamer like 3 years ago in Chicago. Atlanta, he rejuvenates his career. He is a wrecking ball, if you will, coming out of the backfield. He's the size of a linebacker with track speed, and he's got great vision, and he's got a knack for finding the end zone. And all along, I'm sure the Vikings are wondering, why were we not using him correctly when we took him in round number 1? Now, I want to show you guys some receiving stats from the last 2 seasons. So this is Kareem Hunt and Cordarrelle Patterson's pure receiving stats over the last 2 years. And Patterson just dunks on Hunt, right? 670 yards versus 384. Better average. 4 more touchdowns. Sure, he played in 4 more games, but Patterson as a receiving threat, no question. Over the last 2 seasons, you can't argue that Kareem Hunt has been a better threat coming out of the backfield. So, surface level, if the Browns want to replace Kareem Hunt, Cordarrelle Patterson's not a replacement. He looks like an upgrade, right? Now he's up in the age column, so does he still have some juice left in the tank? I would like this trade to happen if what has gone down the last 2 years in Atlanta can be brought over to Cleveland, but that's where I'm a bit skeptical, right? How often does trading for a 32-year-old running back and tossing him in a new system work out for the 32-year-old running back and the team? To me, it seems like if a trade were to happen, everyone would be pumped up and think Cleveland's got the last piece of the puzzle and this offense just went over the edge. And then in reality, oh, he's 32 years old. He had a great thing going in Atlanta, but that magic is gone, and the Browns thought they could take it to Cleveland, and it just didn't happen. Now, Bleacher Report did suggest what a trade could look like, and it costs nothing. A 2024 7th-round pick for Cordarrelle Patterson. So if you hate the idea of trading for Patterson, it's hard to hate it with a really strong vengeance because we're talking about a 2024 7th-round pick. So you make the call for me, though. Should the Browns trade for Patterson? I want to know what you're thinking. T for trade or P for pass? Give me your best thought, right? Give me what you're thinking down in the chat below. For me, it's hard to really be passionate one way or the other because we're talking about a 32-year-old running back and giving up a 7th-round pick. In all likelihood, he's probably not going to be a major factor for any team this season. If he does get dealt because Atlanta wants to go with DeSean Watson and Tyler Algier, I don't see him going to a new team and having 800 yards and 10 touchdowns. Now, when you're talking about giving up a 7th-rounder, I mean, if I was a GM, I would never pick in round 7. So I don't hate the idea of, well, the upside is there for sure, right? Expectations probably are a bit too high for Patterson because you think, well, he's done such great things over the last 2 years. Yeah, I don't quite know how to articulate it or put it into words, but we all know it, right? It's a sports thing. Some guys just are great with one team, and then they go to a new spot and a new system, and it just doesn't work out. And there's not really a good reason as to who could have predicted that, but I think this is going to be one of those situations where maybe taking a 32-year-old back out of Atlanta and putting him in a new system might not go so smooth. Now, the reason why Cleveland could stand to add another running back is when you look at their running back room, it's a bit light after Nick Chubb. Jerome Ford and John Kelly, I like the two players. I've never seen them outside of the preseason. And I don't think anyone can be very passionate one way or another about, no, Jerome Ford's going to be great or Jerome Ford is going to suck. How can we say that? Look at what he did last season. He only had 8 carries. Like, the sample size is not there. There is not enough evidence to actually make a strong opinion on Jerome Ford. He looked good in the preseason. He had some nice splash contributing plays on special teams last year. But no, I did not see enough from Jerome Ford to actually have a strong opinion one way or another. So at this point, I am at the mercy of the coaching staff who see him more than just one Sunday 17 times a year. They see him throughout the week at practice, all offseason long during OTAs. I have to rely on their opinion and their judgment because they get way more opportunity to see what Jerome Ford can do against a good Browns defense right now in practice. Whereas you and me, what are we supposed to do? Actually, declare whether or not he can be a good RB2 because of one preseason game against the Jags last year? Like, whether you like him or not, I think we can all agree there's just too much unknown. So you can't say definitively he's going to be a great RB2, we don't need to add one, or he's going to suck as RB2, we have to add one. That is up to the coaching staff to decide. As fans, we have no idea what to make of Jerome Ford because we have not seen enough out of him. I want to give some shout-outs before getting to the rest of the show. Some Twitter shout-outs to those of you guys that shared our previous video over on Twitter and tagged me at Matthew Peterson. Joshua, both Joshuas actually, Billy, Dustin Michael Murphy, Ricky, Tim, of course, the Brown Tiger, how could I forget? And then Step Daddy. Thank you guys so much for sharing our content and helping us grow the channel. If you want to share it on Twitter, hit that share button, tag me at Matthew Peterson, and I give shout-outs to everyone that does so. So, with that being said, in our last Twitter share roundup, I said, hey, pick a random player and we'll talk about him. And I'm going to go with Denzel Ward. So, the Warden comes off a season that was not spectacular after cashing in, right? 5-year, $100 million contract extension, and he looked like a $1 million player last season, far from $100 million. Now, his stats from a season ago, I mean, all career bad. 60% completion percentage, career high. 530 yards allowed, career high. Now, he did have some good moments, 3 interceptions, 15 pass breakups, 88 out of PFF, 118 ranking amongst all cornerbacks. So, again, not spectacular numbers, and that is being very nice to Denzel Ward. The biggest hope of optimism I have for an absolute 180, and he gets back to looking like the number 4 pick, is Jim Schwartz is going to better utilize these players, right? That is the biggest thing we have to hold on to just reverse jinxing and just moving on from the disaster that was the 2022 Cleveland Browns defense is blame it all on Joe Woods, just make him the scapegoat for everything, and pray that Jim Schwartz is going to walk in here and go, you guys got awesome pieces right here. I don't know what was wrong with the last guy. Denzel Ward, you are not a zone corner. We're making you a coverage corner. We're making you a man-to-man guy, and we're going to get you back to where you play your best ball. He's a bit undersized to maybe a true, put him on an island type corner, but with that speed, he can go foot for foot with anyone. So I'm hoping that Jim Schwartz can turn Denzel Ward around. Am I 100% sold it's going to happen? No, because he was pretty bad last year. But I think there will be a bounce-back season. So if you want to see the Warden bounce back, let's show the guy some love. Type his jersey number 21 in the chat right now. You got to believe these guys are always name-searching, and they want to see what the dog pound is saying about them. So let's get some good juju out in the air. Spam 21 down in the chat to show Denzel Ward you got his back. Now, let's look at a schedule rumor we've got out there. So, off-season Chops tweeting out, word is they're starting on the road on a Sunday, but we will see. So, Chops talking about the Browns schedule and where Cleveland will be on that first week of the 2023 NFL season. Now, to remind everyone, here are the Browns away games they got coming up. So, if they are on the road to start the season, I could see it being any of those 3 divisional matchups, right? Ravens, Steelers, Bengals. It's not going to be Denver. It's not going to be Indy. It's not going to be Seattle. I feel pretty confident about that. Those just feel like very odd. I mean, again, well, the Panthers was odd until Baker got there. And then it was like, oh, this is too perfect. If I had to guess Steelers week 1 away, I could see that. I don't see Houston week 1 away. That just seems like such a dull game. Indy, probably not. Maybe the Rams. Although I think the Rams, they want to give like the Rams against a bigger market. That's just how the NFL likes to operate. So if I had to pick a road game week 1, I'd probably go one of those 3 divisional games. I just don't see any of the other ones making a ton of sense. But then again, it's not like, other games in the past have made sense week 1. So you never quite know. Like Giants-Titans last year, that was a very odd week 1 matchup. So maybe it is Browns-Colts. I mean, that just feels weird for week 1, but can't rule anything out. Now, with that being said, I want to talk a little bit about the schedule as a whole here because we need to have a honest conversation about primetime games. Everyone was upset last year that the Browns did not get a ton of primetime games. Now, initially, that was a sign of, the Browns didn't get a lot of early primetime games. Is that because the league is expecting to suspend DeSean Watson and they don't want to put Jacoby Brissett on Sunday Night Football? I get that. If I had to guess, I think the Browns are going to get scheduled 3 primetime games. Now, my definition of primetime is if you are the only game playing. If you are playing in London, you're a primetime game in my book for the NFL. Primetime games are if you are the only standalone event. So I think they'll get 3, a Monday night, a Thursday night. Everyone gets a Thursday night, or at least everyone used to get a Thursday night. That might not be the case anymore, actually. Amazon was really pissed off last year about the horrible Thursday night slate there was. A Sunday night, and I bet they get flexed into another Sunday night later on in the season in a divisional or key divisional game. The reason why I don't want to see them come out and get 5 or 6 primetime games because everyone's getting drunk on the Browns Kool-Aid, you don't want to be this year's Broncos. You know what I'm talking about. Every single year, there is one team who gets a ton of primetime games after a great offseason, big market, right? And it's like, oh, they're back. This is great. And the NFL invests and believes in them, and then they are a disaster, and the entire football world is begging to get them out of primetime games. I don't want that to be the Cleveland Browns this year. And you can't be that team if you are not tossed into 5 or 6 primetime games. Last year, like I said, it was Denver. Here are the primetime duds as I have identified them the last 3 years. They went 2-4. Feels like they went 0-6 if I remember. The Bears the season prior, 1-4. Remember there was that stretch where it's like, get the Bears off Sunday Night Football. Stop having them get slaughtered by the Packers every single year on Sunday night. The year before that, there wasn't a clear one. Maybe someone else can get a better, submission. The Patriots, first year without Tom Brady, they went 2-4. They were like, oh, Cam Newton, the Patriots, they could be good. They won 7 games. They played 6 games in prime time. So avoid these teams, and you can avoid being these teams by not playing 5 or 6 primetime games. Go under the radar, right? Don't have everyone watching you. Don't have a huge target on your back. Don't have all this hype so that if you don't meet it, then everyone's going to laugh at you and make fun of you all season long. 3 primetime games is fine, right? So how many games, if you had to predict it, will the Browns have? I think they're going to get a Thursday night game. They're going to get a Monday night game. Maybe like Monday night against the Jets, Aaron Rodgers rematch from last year. And they're going to get a Sunday night game against the Steelers, Ravens, or Bengals. That is a guarantee. Almost a guarantee. And then I bet in like week 14 through 17, they will get flexed into another Sunday night game. Some other news to hit on here. Tony. Did you guys see his ideas of changing the Browns name altogether? I didn't give it much airtime on the show because it was so ridiculous. I didn't want to water that plant. But Tony tweeting out, veteran offensive skill players on Browns have been excused from last week of phase 2 of offseason program next week. Reason? Camp DeSean Watson, destination Puerto Rico, about 16 attending. You can tell Tony is pissed off writing this. He's never been a big fan of DeSean Watson, and he is definitely looking at this going, oh, they're above the law. They're the exception. If I have a take on this, it's I've never been to an offseason workout. I've never played in the NFL. I don't know, and you don't know, truly how valuable, or maybe not as valuable as we may think, these offseason workouts are. So if the Browns are okay with DeSean Watson and the offense hopping on a PJ and flying to San Juan, Puerto Rico and working out there, well, who the hell am I to say that's a horrible idea? They're wasting valuable reps. I don't know because I've never been in an off-season workout, so I don't know how crucial it is to be in Berea or not. There are a lot of notable guys who skip voluntary workouts. Some have great seasons, some have bad seasons. I don't think there's any sort of correlation, but I'm going to trust in Stefanski and Barry and be a little bit of a sheep here and say, if it was that big of an issue and it was that detrimental to the offense and the team and the season, they probably would have said, hey, DeSean, could you do it the next week, please? So that's my 2 cents on it. Hit me up on Twitter, by the way, if you like today's show and you want more Browns content. I'm always talking Brownies over there. I'm going to sign off and see everyone later.